Panelists, let's go. By the way, I am willing on my own time to meet with any of a company's CEO, CMO, COO, CFO kind of team to help share, some of the track phone experience we did. And we're transformation experts. So that's something that I don't mind doing as a servant leader. So, panel, holy cow, I'm not sure where to begin, So let's talk about, I guess, in each one of your companies a bit about, kind of where you are, what you're doing. When was the moment you felt like you needed to have some cultural transformation? And what are you doing and where are you at it? Let's start with you, Jordan.
Yeah, so
I'll give you the mic.
there we go. So a couple of years, like in so many businesses, we were going through digital transformation, that big word, whatever that means. And I felt like I was the target of it. We hired, 200 external consultants to come in, all of the technology partners, and everyone inside was just going to sit and listen and sort of be transformed. And while I was sitting there and I was going through a lot of growing pains at that moment, I said, there's got to be a better way. This isn't making sense. And I thought, I'm going to watch how this goes down because this sure isn't going to work. And next time, maybe I'll do it, and maybe I'll do it better. And I think the one insight and sort of where we are now is that you don't just slap on some wings on a caterpillar to make a butterfly, right? The caterpillar becomes the butterfly, and that means, like you've said, and I think so much insight in what you covered is you really have to transform the company itself. It's everybody inside that we're trying to transform. That means we have to bring them along. We have to have empathy for all of them. We have to understand what their challenges are. We have to share our goals in a clear way and tie everybody to that. And while it is a long journey, you imagine, shoot, I got to transform this entire company. It's sort of a tall order. But what you say is true, is it really gains its own momentum, and bringing in everybody. It's not let's run away from IT. It's let's partner with IT. What do you guys need that you've never been able to get? Because Lord knows they have a long list of issues that are quite valid. And so rather than bring in a whole army of consultants, it was how do we as a group leverage everything that we have against this new goal? How do we transform? Because this is actually a pretty exciting thought that we're going to become something better together. We're going to, we actually want to do that. We're not just transforming you, we're transforming us. And we're sort of in the middle of that now. And we've been as inclusive as possible. And I mean that in the classic sense, where, we need a new data platform. Let's say we're going to talk to the data guys. And what do you guys need? What have you always been told no? How do you help us achieve this goal? And I think by going through that, we've really been able to, there is some filtering, if you will, in what we end up doing, saying, here's our goal, transform the customer experience, deliver value. What do you have in your kitty that can deliver that? And little by little, our crowd and our coalition keeps growing and growing. And I think one thing I picked up from the talk was it's time to bring the executives in a meaningful way. Everyone's got to contribute. And we can't transform the company without them. And I think that really resonates. It makes a lot, there's some sense to it. And so, yeah, I really appreciate a lot of insights there. But we're in growing pain mode city,
I like how you said little by little it's expanding out, because it's really, in our experience, was a pull strategy. We would just start with one agile team and, magic word language for executives. With an executive.
There's people that hadn't gotten enough attention over the years.
Yeah.
You say, well, what have you been trying? What have you been trying to do? You think you can help us do this? And hey, maybe I can have a little funding for you, and we get that going, and maybe we just aim it over here. And then you start earning some credibility. Oh, they are treating us like a team. We are a team, because that's a big part of it is that we're not a series of teams and a giant matrix nightmare. We're actually one group trying to achieve a goal for the customer.
We started with that one test. I still didn't believe it at the time. And then others were going, hey, what's going on over there? Plus Andrew's buying a bunch. And we decided we wanted a third one. We actually branded them. They all gave themselves a name. We got t-shirts, we got hat. Oh, yeah. And so we got them all branded with t-shirts and hats. And, you know, I was saying that we started with one agile team. And then it was others that would say, hey, that looks very interesting. We want to stand up an agile team. And it went from 1 to 32 quickly and became very powerful. So I'm going to go over to Fernando over here. Excuse me, Fernando. So tell us, now Fernando's the CIO. Okay,
Yes, thank you. So same question, I would assume.
Yes.
Okay. Well, my story goes a little bit further back to where in the previous organization I was working for, I came to a realization that I wasn't feeling uncomfortable. It was one of those moments where it's like, okay, I'm not challenged, I'm not learning, I'm not growing. I need to expand beyond that. And so I started searching for a place where I would be extremely challenged, where I would be pushing myself to the extreme and then allow myself to grow and also work with this organization to do so. So I spent almost a year interviewing in a variety of different companies. And I met Henry Fletches, the CEO of UDT. And the first thing that he said when we met for lunch over discussing the position, he said, I need to change my company drastically. And that was really shocking because no one else had said that. Okay, everybody was talking about how great they were, how amazing the things are, and it's all great. And I was thinking, then why are you looking for someone? What's the point? So nonetheless, I joined the organization, and one thing is what people say, even though Henry, fascinating guy, was really committed to it, he didn't know how to do it. People don't know what they don't know. If they haven't experienced profound change, if they haven't become a servant leader, you don't know how to do that. It takes time. So even though there's intent, right, having to go through that change was really impactful. And having to do it from a point of walking or doing what you're trying to say that they need to do. And that requires something that makes a lot of people uncomfortable sometimes, and that is being vulnerable in certain situations. Like coming into an executive meeting where everybody, is doing their stance and presenting their department in the best way possible. I would have to come in and say, guys, the IT organization is failing. We're unable to drive results. We don't have clear alignment to the strategic goals of the organization. I don't have shared goals or partnership with every other department to ensure that what we're doing is impacting value or creating value for the organization and creating value for our customers. That was really tough. And honestly, I put myself out there. I thought either this is going to go spectacular or I'm gone the next day, one of the two. Obviously, it turned out really well. However, that still wasn't moving as quickly as I would like it to be. So then I started doing a grassroots movement in transformation. And that was a little bit easier. And I know this is going to sound, and maybe some people here might disagree with what I'm going to say, but I used a little bit of command and control to force people into becoming empowered, which was a little weird and shocking at the same time, I know. But all of a sudden, we started having these teams that became empowered. They started self-organizing. They started bringing people in from different departments. So the IT organization was all of a sudden bringing people from finance, all of a sudden bringing people from inside sales, from engineering. And they started creating these really amazing solutions and talking about this agility and taking these projects that have been stalled for 2-3 years and delivering them in 6 months. And this caught the attention of a lot of people. And that really fostered and kind of, lit fire under the transformation firecracker, if you will.
That's great. That's a great story. And, we really have two great examples here. One is more of a tops down CEO self-awareness, Fernando with the self-awareness about the IT department, not being connected and aligned and sharing strategic goals with the other organizations and how to have to then pull and empower and force empower. We did that at TrackPhone too. You're not in charge, right? And then over with Jordan, with many of us have to do it a little bit more from the bottoms up, right? And kind of build it from within, and then now start to meet that intersection of bringing and pulling in the top, you know? So, you know, either way works, as long as we can get there. So great job, you know, great stories, by the way, in two magnificent industries. So Rana, go ahead and tell us more about Spirit.
How long do we have? I've got a very long story here. In regards to, so my story kind of fits somewhere in between here, and I'll also talk a little bit about how things have come about. But I'll start with pre-Spirit. It's kind of similar to you, Fernando. When I met with the then CEO at the time, and he asked me a very simple question. He said, "Hey, you know, your resume looks pretty good. You know, it looks like you could add value. What do you think about our product?" And I said, "I think it sucks. It's not, you know, I've flown it, and it's not at all what I want to. I'll never do it again." Right. And he said, "Oh, well, good. That's what I was hoping you'd say, right? Because we're kind of looking to try to make changes. You know, we're in this process of talking about it. You know, we weren't really there, but we are super successful in the sense of profitability. You know, we've changed the model in the marketplace. We've totally upset the apple cart in terms of how the airline industry should operate. Our margins are some of the best in the business. People are trying to emulate us, but you know, we've got a bit of a reputation problem, and we're looking to figure out how we can make changes to that. So kind of fast forward about a year and a half. So I joined, obviously, because I like the space where it's tear down and build. You know, that's kind of the fun place to be in. And the area that I originally came into was really just managing the P&L on the revenue side of the business. And then for a year and a half, I bitched and complained and said, "How come we don't have a dedicated kind of digital e-commerce shop?" Right. So we've got an IT shop. But we don't really have anyone that has a focus on how we think about our digital presence. Even though we were doing probably about, you know, like 90% of our business through digital, there was nobody that had that as a responsibility. You know, that just sort of happened. That was, you know, we were delivering products, we were delivering marketing campaigns, we were doing things, but no one really had any ownership of it. Nobody was looking at it holistically. Nobody was thinking about the outcomes. And so I bitched obviously enough that they said, "Hey, we got a guy. It's you. You're going to be the guy. You're going to be the guy that's going to do this." I said, "Okay, well, so that wasn't what I was expecting, but good. Let's give this a go." And so where I kind of thread the needle, I guess, between these guys is that ours was actually less. It wasn't necessarily top down. It wasn't necessarily, you know, kind of ground up. But the main thing that happened for us was that as the kind of year and a half went by, the new CEO, so the CEO at the time, really started challenging the premise that we could only be one of two things. We could either only be a cheap airline, meaning that we can offer cheap prices, or we had to totally change our model and try to be something that required a lot more investment to get to a better guest experience. And really what he was looking for was, could we become something that delivered much more value? So in value, as we sort of thought about the business, was what's the experience divided by the price that you're paying? And so that really started moving the needle in terms of just broadly and culturally. People started to challenge the kind of premises that we had that said, you can't spend money on certain things. You can't do things a certain way because that's the way we've done it. And that's what's made us successful. And maybe our customers don't like us, but so what? You know, we're still profitable. Could we actually get to a spot where customers liked us? You were talking about -4. We were like a -30 NPS at the time, right? And so there was really like nowhere to go but up at that point. And so one of the things that really started moving the needle was looking at the NPS data, understanding where the common sort of friction points were, and we really just took more of a method, just took an approach that just said, "Hey, what are the biggest issues, and let's just start knocking them down." So it wasn't a kind of a manifesto. There was no sort of digital transformation document, that we started with. It really started with, what are the areas that people don't like? Let's start knocking those down. And so we started with the website, then we started with the mobile app, then we just kind of continued on. And although there was a roadmap that me and my team had created with partnership with the IT shop, the actual sort of movement then to try to get everybody on board really was something that, as long as we had success, people started coming on board. And then ultimately, over the last couple of years, the reason we've kind of moved into kind of much more of a kind of an agile approach is that as we started knocking down some of the big pieces, people then started getting hungry and saying, hey, this is taking too long, right? You're getting me 2 releases a year. I'm seeing stuff that's coming in, and when it gets delivered, we don't really like it. What else can we be doing? And so just by kind of virtue of demands of the marketplace, demands of the employee base, and demands of obviously our customer base, we started going into a spot where it became a relatively, I won't say it was an easy transformation, but certainly the ability to shift from what we were doing before to something new. There was a much bigger appetite because people were not happy with the way we were doing things. And so it allowed people to start making the small moves to the point where I'd say we're still fairly early in our journey in terms of kind of the transformation process on the digital side, but certainly much further ahead, to the point where hardly anybody asks me anymore about how things are going, right? Because they just see it in terms of outcomes. They don't ask, hey, Rand, are you still frustrated? Are you still irritated? Are you still? Nope. They're just seeing things. They're seeing things that are coming out. And so that's their answer, because they're seeing it on a frequent enough basis. They don't have to ask, hey, what's going to happen in 6 months? What's going to happen in 5 months? What's going to happen in next year?
So let me ask each of you, I mean, those are great stories, by the way, real stories, real businesses on cultural transformation. I'm going to ask a question that dives a little bit now into the agile piece of it, right? So just share with us perhaps maybe how many teams, if any, you have, how is that working, or how are other people seeing it? And are there plans to implement any more agile at all on the agile piece of transformation? And I'm going to just start with you and go back the other way.
Yeah. As I said, we're still fairly, I think, early in the stages. 2019 is really kind of when we started shifting into a much more agile framework. And then something happened in 20. I can't remember what it was, but it really kind of put a dent in the plans in terms of how quickly we could continue to move. But post that, I think we are a much more structured. We have a structured methodology now that we're pursuing. We have a smaller number of teams, but big teams, which is not really fantastic. So I think we're still in the process right now of having to break up those teams. We can benefit from breaking up those teams. The main constraint is simply that from the business side of the business, like who's providing the use cases, who's providing the user stories. There's only so many heads, right, that can kind of provide that intel. And Spirit, if you guys have ever dealt with us, we've got way more ideas, like most companies, than we can execute, right? And so you have to go through a bit of a process of just making sure that, do you understand the prioritization matrix? Do you understand what it is that we can deliver? Do you understand the level of effort? Can you size things properly for us to actually make this an effective process? But I would say that where we are today, I feel very comfortable that we're delivering on the roadmap that we've presented.
So within the IT organization, and understand that we're not a super large organization, we got about 400 employees, give or take. But within the IT organization, we got 10 agile teams. Essentially, the whole IT organization is agile. But the team aspect is just a measure. I think a better question is, how are the different departments within your company behaving? And does that behavior align with the Agile Manifesto? Okay, does it have a sense of empowerment? Are people starting to think about, hey, if I deliver often, right, I can ensure that the value is closer aligned to the folks that I'm serving, whether internal or external? Am I engaging in open collaboration with people outside of my team? Those are the sort of things that I think would be really impactful as you guys all go through some transformation journey that you should be looking at and be focusing on. So where I felt that I started being successful in driving adoption of Agile within UDT was one day I happened to go and look at Jira for some reason. I forget what it was specifically. I was looking at some of the boards of our teams. And to my surprise, I was like, there should only be like 15 boards on here. And there were probably like over 50 of them. And I started reading some of them. And I saw things in finance. I saw things in marketing. Sales didn't have anything in there, but there was a whole bunch of other departments that started creating this thing. And my first, I was like, okay, well, maybe they're doing some, methodology. Great. A lot of people try to do, agile methodology, but not the transformation of it. And so I went to those department heads and I started having some conversations. And I said, hey, did you know that you guys are using that? And they're like, yeah, the team came to me. My employees came to me and said, hey, look how these guys, what they're doing and how they're behaving, and they're doing this self-organization thing. Can we try? Fortunately, a lot of these folks were supportive. And that started creating what I mentioned earlier, that grassroots movement within the company. So from an agile adoption perspective, if you're going to move the needle somewhere in a profound way, has to be focused around that. How are people behaving? What are the things that you foster that you say, these are the right things to do, right? How do you drive empowerment? And the one thing I didn't talk about in my previous response, because we are talking about challenges as well, what I found to be the most resistant portion of the population, the organization, was that middle slice, that middle management. It really was very hard to do. Even today, there's still groups within the organization that haven't really fully bought into this, or might not ever, honestly. But there continues to grow pressure from what I call the sandwich effect from the executive team, because we're continuing to behave that way and function and sort of, walk the talk. And then also these grassroots movements, all these employees are yearning for this. And they're looking to adopt this kind of behavior because they see the impact that other areas in their organization have. They see how folks really enjoy coming to work, how they feel engaged, and they feel that what they do within the organization matters. They're not just a cog, in the machinery, and they have no idea what impact they have in the ultimate outcome of what the company stands for.
That's great. I want to add one comment. I love hearing how your teams went and reached out throughout the rest of the organization and brought them in. On a little story, Regina over here dragged me by my hair, kicking and scratching. I had to take, Fernando, can you imagine? I had to take and put in each one of these 32 teams, one of my sales and someone in my organization had to sit in there. And I didn't get that at first. I felt like I was losing someone and the CIO was stealing our resources. We couldn't get resources. And I was the first one. It took me a little time to realize, whoa. I now have a 300-person addition to the sales and marketing team. And the CIO now could help deliver more efficiently and effectively and get results-driven outcome, and it all worked together. We used to rename our titles: customer information officer, customer marketing officer, and then with the ops guy, customer operations officer. Okay, Jordan, over to you.
Yeah, just riding along that theme, we have about 15 teams and growing in the e-commerce organization, similar set on the app and so forth. But like any company, we're coming out of COVID. There's only a couple big projects, big investments. And what happens when you get okay, you're going to do the transformation, right? You get everyone's attention. Whoa, not so fast. How is security and enterprise architecture? And so what we ended up doing, which mirrors what you guys are saying, was you have to have skin in the game. You're on the team. It's not like, report to, no, you're not, no one's reporting to you. You have put someone here, become part of the team, and you get some of the resistance that you sort of described there. And then lo and behold, we've never had better coverage. people can't just be in the peanut gallery. You have to come in. We want enterprise architecture there, please. That's how the teams get so big. We wanted security deeply in there. As a matter of fact, we recently, and this just happened today, we got legal even because we were doing a lot of things. An example, we're doing some stuff with AI and ChatGPT and so forth. And this is like the scariest thing possible for these folks. And I sat with the general counsel today, and he's telling me about what we're about to launch. And I'm like, really? This week? Right. So he's so in. And what it does is the culture of updates can be so draining and such a massive part, unfortunately, of what it takes to get through bureaucracy. And this really short circuits it. And I don't want you to just be interested. I want you on the team. We need you on the team. I don't want to get a consultant on legal in this matter. Why don't you come and do it? And then they end up, like you said, like, holy, wait, I'm actually involved here. This is, for real. And I'm helping build the website and I'm helping do this. And I'm going to launch the first GPT, whatever, and so you really do start getting some of that enthusiasm. And what's interesting about e-commerce and just technology in general is where customers have gone, they're all into it. Everybody's an expert. Oh, this for sure. If you build a website, is everybody's a critic, everybody's an expert, right. And they are, and you got to respect it, right? They're not always right about everything, and they don't have. They're. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, that's all great, but the customer said this.
That's right. That's right, and that's right. And now when we're talking about our product roadmaps, I want to hear from the customer. Don't tell me about the feature. What's the problem? And I want to hear it in their voice. And that's something we've introduced very recently as part of the transformation, was the voice of the customer. But like you said, and like I mentioned before, it's not a team. It's the team. It's all of us. And I think it's been really beneficial. It also stops some of the finger pointing, because that's gone. Oh, you were there for every decision. Your team was there, and there's nothing, And so we kind of handle mistakes like a family might, and kind of, hey, how are we going to learn from it? Let's do the retro. Let's make an adjustment. And so little by little, it catches fire. And what I do find is the constant load of the updates. Like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. You kind of had some details there. Like, they're not asking me what I'm doing in 5 months and 6 months and 8 months. Like, that's a nightmare. And I know what you're talking about. But when you have this TikTok, and when people are actually on the teams and have skin in the game, they don't need updates. They have them. They were part of the update and so forth. So that's really just another element.
It's powerful hearing the positive outcomes, not only in results, but in the people, right? And then that just seems to compound, if you will. Great book out there, Psychology of Money, The Power of Compounding, too. You reminded me of something talking about the amount of meetings and report outs that the employees asked for. One of their barrier teams that they wanted to put together was one called Kill Stupid Rules, the KSR team. We let them put it together, and they wanted agents, 007 agents, to be planted throughout the company. And we let them recommend, let's kill stupid rules, right? Or the number of signatures on paperwork when people don't even know what they're signing. Why are they signing it? And I could go on with how much impact the KSR team did. But that's how open we were to employee engagement. So let's allow, we've got about 10 more minutes, I think. Questions. That's at least, we never allow enough time for questions. Let's get some questions from the audience, from anybody, everybody, especially the panel.
All right. Who's going to be the first one to ask a question? I'm going to have to run around here all the way back there. All right, hold on.
How have you guys been able to, one, I think, partner with your HR department as you guys are transforming and road mapping and looking at what the future experience looks like, and then working with them to, one, redesign that org because the operating model of your department changes. Two, people that have new skill, new capability. Some of you were kind of bleeding edge in South Florida in this, right? How did you kind of work with them to elevate the price points, be able to afford some of those people? And then as you were attracting them and then retaining them, what were some of the strategies that you guys each kind of thought of as you put that plan together, got the funding, did the reorgs, and ultimately then started to deliver results?
So he took 3 questions. Okay, I just want to make sure that we can answer this pretty quickly, but I'm running up here. It's my exercise, guys. Who wants to tackle this question? Go for it.
So a quick comment, because with all these transformations comes a few high-priced business consultants, and they often offer change management, which you're like, huh, yeah, we should do that. Planning on changing all this stuff, we should manage it. And the approach we wanted to take here again was, well, the company has a change management group in HR. Who are they? Let's find them. And let's see, maybe they've done this before. And I'm sure the company's gone through a couple transformations. Maybe we have some work. So again, I think it's taking the same approach, which is HR was on the team from the beginning to the end. And all of our assumptions at the beginning were not where we ended up and not where we're going to end up. But all along the way, they were there. And they were there for meetings that weren't HR meetings. They were in the meetings, all of them. And so I think really embracing the teams, making them a member of the team, getting dedication was important, at least, you know, in our organization. It's not like, I don't want to be one of your projects like this, like we need you. And we need you, not just answering a problem as it comes up, but working ahead and really investing in it. And so we've stayed really close, and it's been one of the most efficient, let's call it, you know, spinning up teams situation that we've had before. Oh.
Continue. So I'll try to be brief with the answer. Well, first and foremost, like with anything else that you want to get done, you need to enroll people in your vision. So as soon as I joined the organization, I started engaging with all the executives, HR included. And one of the things that I talked about was this whole concept of, you know, super engaged employees who just woke up super early to go to work, but wanted to be there, who felt like they were contributing, increasing productivity. So I started going through the motions of selling on this vision. So I got backing from HR. So that's how that worked out. From the other question, I don't think it's realistic to expect that you're going to hire a bunch of A players who have a ton of experience, who mesh automatically in your teams, and then you're ready to go. That's unrealistic. However, what you can do is you can seed certain teams with some of those type of folks. You can then hire, not based 100% on experience, but you can potentially hire people who are, you know, new in their careers, but they have the right aptitude, right? They have the right cultural sort of behaviors that you're looking for, and who demonstrate high learning agility. And you can bring those folks in and then mold them and then help create that culture that you're trying to drive.
I would echo a lot of what Fernando said. That, you know, well, let me first say that the first answer to the question is you hire Talento to help you with your process. So that's answer number one. But I'm saying that somewhat tongue in cheek, but in all seriousness, you know, I think one of the things that was a big benefit was, as I was trying to make inroads on these changes, that you did have to partner with somebody in the HR organization, and you had to kind of provide a bit of a view and a vision of where you're trying to get to, because the type of skill sets that are required are very different. They're not going to be the same types of, you know, you can't have the same types of leaders that have been doing certain things a certain way, and then certainly somebody expect them just because the senior team has come down and said, hey, this is a good way for us to start approaching the business, for them simply to just say, yeah, that's good. Let's do something I've never done before, and I'm just going to accept it. It doesn't happen that way. So you do have to start finding the appropriate leadership to make that happen, and that HR has to play a key role in understanding who are the folks that have the kind of the aptitude towards making those want to make those changes. Who are the folks that are kind of behind the scenes saying, hey, I don't really like the way we're doing things today, and how do I help, you know, make the changes. But then what you were just saying, Fernando, that we recognize that, you know, we're a low cost business. You know, that's our secret sauce, is that we keep our costs down, which means that we're never going to be the top payers in a marketplace, which does mean then that you've got to find the young and hungry talent that's out there, that's willing to learn, willing to take a bit of a flyer, but recognize that they're the folks that if you kind of bring them in and pair them with a few, you know, kind of more seasoned folks, a few folks that have kind of been there before, they're going to be your future leaders as well. And so that you really have to kind of take a little bit of a risk with your HR partner to just say, hey, who are the folks that may not exactly be what we're looking for on the JD that we put together, but have the potential and bring those folks along.
Anybody that knows me, you give me a mic, I'm going to answer that real quick. Well, I'm gonna. So something I did real quick with HR is, yes, definitely take them along for the ride. I would have all my direct reports every year. We would build a deck called how we're going to plan and execute differently, because we're always evolving. And so, each of the organizations wouldn't sometimes always need some of those boxes. They'd have to reposition the box. We can move a box over to this department, and different ways we were doing that. The other piece our CEO was always big on was always showing him a best-in-class organization for the future, for now and future, and then to number the priorities of who we would want to as a resource, so we could work towards getting numbers 1 and 2, even though we might not get 4, 5, 6, and 7, but to always be working towards that perfect vision build. So, okay.
So I want to, I know we're going to have a lot of questions. And so I do want to make sure we time box this as well. So we want your questions. And so we're going to actually get those questions to our panelists so that we can take care of it. This doesn't end here. Guys, we do this every week. So I don't know if you guys have actually had an opportunity to go to online, coaching clinics that we have on Saturday morning at 8:30 in the morning. We're there talking about coaching opportunities, kind of helping organizations out. On Wednesdays, we have sessions every week. So this is the first face-to-face. So we're going to have one, I think, Regina, with the women in leadership, which is spectacular. But I need your support. We need to keep spreading the word. We're out here. We're helping the community out. Okay, first, I want a round of applause for an amazing panelist. Good job. And from a coach perspective, I'll just give you my 2 cents. So as I see the journey that they're going through, that's one of the biggest challenges coaches have, is that we've had success with certain customers, but we have to also make sure we clear our mind. So everyone's working through their own journey, and we all have to meet them there. And it's just about getting the small wins. And maybe it stops today and we go back and then we come back in a year, but they're moving on. They're figuring it out. That's the exciting part of what they're doing. They're making a difference. So I'm so proud to have them here supporting the community. This is volunteer work at its maximum, right? They're all giving back. So thank you again for your support, and we'll catch you guys hopefully on next session. All right. Have a wonderful night. What's that? Yeah, so we're still here networking a little bit, but I know they're going to turn off the lights on us as well, too, okay? You don't got to go home, but no. So make sure there's some food out there. And if you want to have some conversation, good luck. See if you can grab them, all right? Thank you again for attending. Online, again, thank you very much for your support. And we'll catch you next week.